Good morning and happy Valentine's Day. Having little hearts on my coffee cup to go. I'm Allison Johnson with Clio Coaching and Consulting. And here we are with another tip for emotional intelligence and how to increase yours as a leader, owner of your own business, professional in general. So, this has been a journey. We've been talking about each piece. And if you want to learn more tips about increasing your emotional intelligence and why that's important, just go to my website, cleocoaching.com, and look in the blog section. So, today we are talking about a cornerstone, like a number one part of emotional intelligence, and that is the ability to have empathy for other people. Now, remember that emotional intelligence's definition is being aware of yourself, self awareness, aware of your emotions, how they show up to other people, that's self awareness, your interpersonal awareness, and ability and skill in working with other people, your ability to regulate yourself. And that is, even in high stress times, which is when most of us have trouble with emotional regulation at work, where you get a little crabby, maybe get a little direct or curt, that that ability to regulate yourself is super important. And then there's stress management and that aspect of it too. Well, today we're talking about empathy, which is a huge part of social skills. And in the workplace, social skills are almost important and maybe becoming even more important for leaders, especially in the times we have today. Because if your social skills, interpersonal skills, ability to have empathy for other people, your other peers, your employees, leaders at the top, that'll help you so much because right now we are all struggling with employee retention and keeping the tribal knowledge with the employees that we have. We want them to stay and not have to retrain. Now, that's a generalization, but the shrinking of the workforce in coming decades that has started already is an issue. So listen up for how to increase empathy. So first of all, definition. What is empathy? Well, it's not sympathy. It's not seeing how somebody else, sympathizing with their situation. Empathy is the ability to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, in their place, and imagine what they are thinking and feeling. In other words, take time to tune in to what might be going on with that other person. This will help you in so many ways in your role as a leader in your organization. And one of the ways that's top of mind is when somebody else is having a day, when they're really emotionally expressing, or maybe they've done something that is kind of like a no-no, like maybe a really curt or ranting email, maybe it's that they have, been rude to somebody else. It's really helpful to stop a minute before you go in and try to course correct with that person to think, all right, now what might be going on with him or her? And even to approach the person with that in mind. When you go in to speak with someone in crucial conversations, difficulty, in times interpersonally with other people, super helpful to not just think from your own perspective, but also the perspective of the other. So that's what we're talking about today. It'll help you so much, even with your own emotional regulation in your workplace. So I'm Allison Johnson, just saying again, here's who I work with and why I rant on this topic. I'm super pumped about helping executives, business owners, any professional who's got a lot of responsibility and therefore a lot of stress in helping them to work on their people skills, their EQ, and also just, all those soft skills, managing other people, all that stuff. I'm not your technical guru. I work on the other part of business, which is all the people side. So that's who I am and what I do. I already talked about that. I'm kind of looking over here and make sure I don't forget anything. Okay, talked a little bit about the benefits of adopting an empathetic point of view with people. The benefit to you is that that person will calm down. That person will feel like, really get that you care. That person will probably tell you more about what's really going on with him or her so that you guys can work together to, solve whatever situation is going on. It'll help you to make better decisions to have empathy or to use your empathy skill. A lot of this stuff isn't innate in us. Some of us are born or learn through our childhoods how to be very empathetic and sometimes too much empathetic. We're talking about a healthy dose of empathy here that you can turn up and turn down depending on the situation. So, being able to turn it on and approach someone or a situation or a group of people, let's say you're in a team setting and you're delivering a new initiative, you know that there's going to be some pushback. It helps a lot to think through from your audience's or your team's viewpoint or your customer's viewpoint or your patient's viewpoint if you're in the medical arena. How are they going to receive it? What questions are they likely to have? How's it probably going to impact? Like if you say you got to make some cuts and you're going to have to do some layoffs, you know that fear is going to leap right in there from their point of view. So, how do you set yourself up with your messaging, having thought through what they're likely to experience on the other side of you? That's all empathy. It's so many applications. If you work on this for your workplace, it's going to have super big benefits. If you remember to use it at home too. I don't know about you, but I'm way more empathetic a lot of the time and patient and active listening, when I'm with my clients or people outside. If I could just apply that from my husband, he would be very happy. So it just helps everywhere in your life. Okay, enough. That's on the benefit. One of the biggest benefits is if you're an empathetic leader, that doesn't mean you're all mushy and soft. That means that your people know that you get it, that you get what they're going through, that you get their point of view. Super helpful for them. And it'll be really helpful for you too, because you'll have a more collaborative style. People will approach you more. They'll feel comfortable with you. You're going to learn a whole lot more about what's really going on out there if this is the line of skills you adopt. Creates a positive work environment. An empathetic leader is a collaborative leader who asks, hey, how's this affect you? How are you guys doing today? What's going on? I want to understand it. That's what that is. Yes, it takes more time, but it pays off so well. So to to bump up your empathy, active listening is really important because if you don't ask, hey, tell me what you're thinking, you won't know. So you have to use your active listening to create that space for someone to be able to talk to you. And also your own self-awareness. Are you aware that when you're in hurry mode, your empathy is probably low? You're just not going to make time for it. Maybe you need to deliver a message, cut and run. Drop in, drop a bomb, head on out. So empathy and active listening and getting to know what's really going on takes more time. So that you have to know that. Let's see what else. I'll give you an example. A client I was working with recently has a very, if you guys know anything about the DISC, really dominant personality, likes to make quick decisions, super intelligent, super fast thinker. And she gets annoyed with people who show a lot of emotion at work. She just doesn't get her done kind of leader. And so what we're working on is how to give some time and space to thinking about what's going on with somebody else, especially if she has that trigger of being annoyed with them. So she got CC'd on an email from a very distraught employee who was under a lot of pressure. She was annoyed that she CC'd felt like 100 people. And so was, getting ready, there's frustration. Some stuff was showing in there that you really don't want in an email to a lot of people. And so she was getting ready to go talk to her. So we talked it through. And, first thing I asked her is, what do you think's going on with that other person? Think it through. What's she been going through lately? Well, yeah, she's been under a lot of stress. A lot of people are on her back. So what do it's granted, write an email like that is not helpful for her professionally, nor for your department. So you're going to talk to her about that. But what about starting with, hey, what was going on that day? That you let her rip in that email. And then, she was anticipating the woman would be defensive. If we don't go in with empathy, people get defensive. So she went in with empathy, asked some good questions, listened, and then got to the part about, okay, doesn't help you at all to have an email going out like that. So let's talk about what you do the next time you feel really stressed out. And so they talked through it. That's one example. There's so many examples. Okay, some of the barriers to empathy. One, you don't even stop to think about what the other, people you're talking with might be thinking or feeling. It's always good to have that in mind. It gets to be a habit after a while. So time is a barrier because, yep, that takes time. Voice of the customer, learning what it is, voice of your employees, that takes time. And so those are the two mains. It might be also that you have, do you have some bias that you may or may not be aware of that kind of is a barrier for you being empathetic with certain people? Maybe it's you haven't had a great relationship with that person in the past and they're kind of like a frenemy at work. So that might get in the way unless you consciously decide to dissolve that barrier. So anyway, there's that's more to this whole subject. To learn more, you can always get a hold of me. And you know how to do that. Direct message, get me on LinkedIn, pop a comment out, whatever you want. So let's summarize for a second. So empathy is a critical foundational piece of good leadership, and especially in the world we live in today, because our employees, they have more voice than they've ever had before in organizations. It's important to listen to them and fosters stronger connection. It creates trust in an organization. It creates trust in your teams. Hey, there's no downside to empathy except that it takes some time, but it's worth it. So that's enough for today. Thanks for listening. Contact me if you want to learn more. It's cleocoaching.com or allison.johnson@cleocoaching. All right, I'll see you soon. Bye.